My name is Jacob Becker. This is how different forms of pollution are interconnected. To start off with context, the Industrial Revolution was the start of modern pollution, as coal and natural gas became the forefront for modern production at the time due to the assembly line and mechanized production. Coal and natural gas were the only things at this time that could fuel these machines, as electricity was not harnessed that powerfully yet. And this paired with a lack of environmental awareness is what caused us to spiral into a very, very bad pollution state for about 80 years until the government realized what we were actually doing to our environment. So then it made them ask the question, is there enough time to fix what we did? And scientists came away with the answer of maybe not, but we can definitely minimize what we've done. And the government is taking actions through clean energy, through electricity and biofuels, and those biofuels include cellulose and ethanol, which is made from corn, and cellulose is made from plants, and are almost as productive as natural gas and coal. And I'll touch on those on their own slide. To start off, I believe air pollution is one of the most important things, and there's actually two different forms of air pollution, which I did not know prior to my research. The most famous one, which I did know about, was outdoor pollution, and this is the most famous one. This is factories, cars, trucks, even lighting a cigarette is considered outdoor air pollution. So almost anything that is combustible and that is releasing chemicals into the atmosphere is considered outdoor air pollution, as none of that really should be released into the atmosphere naturally. And then indoor air pollution, which I did not know was considered indoor air pollution. It's more considered indoor hazards, but that considers things such as faulty fridges, stovetops, and ovens, and then along with furnaces, and then along with that, deadly things as carbon monoxide and other indoor chemicals, carbon dioxide that can affect humans in a negative way in their own home. And I attached a picture of my furnace. This is what a working and healthy furnace looks like, along with a carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide detector to keep myself and to keep my family safe from these possible hazards. And then burning these fossil fuels is breaking down the ozone and creating unnatural ozone in the troposphere when it's supposed to be in the stratosphere. And this is due to when the fumes from cars or trucks or even smokestacks interact with UV light, and they create ozone, which almost looks like a smog, and I'll cover that on a future slide. It was a large contributor for COVID-19 deaths, specifically in the South in Louisiana, as 50% of Louisiana COVID-19 deaths were African American, and the majority of them were in low-income areas, which shows that this problem is affecting people in the wrong demographic, as these people are hardworking and they really have no other option rather to live there, and they're being very negatively and disproportionately affected by the upper classes factories. It's been a key contributor to eutrophication, which I'll talk about later as well on what exactly that is. But the basic concept is it is the acidification of our lakes and oceans. And then the air pollution effects have a very negative effect on animal reproduction, as mammals are much, much, much less likely to give birth in overpolluted areas rather than standard areas. And I think this is a major problem, as we lose 2,000 species to extinction worldwide every single year. And if we keep acting like these pollution is not actually directly affecting ecosystems and animals, then we are just joking with ourselves. This goes right into climate change, as this is a direct correlation with air pollution. As unnatural ozone becomes trapped in the troposphere, like I said, it interacts with that UV light. It begins to warm the Earth and the Earth's surface. And one of the biggest things that has happened because of this is the cyclical warming of the Arctic. I attached a model here to the right on what exactly that is, and you see those red squiggles coming down into the bowl of ice, and that represents the fossil fuels and the trapped heat, and that comes down and that melts the surface ice, and slowly, and as that begins to heat, it then raises the temperature of the water. So when the water temperature raises, it expedites the process of the ice melting, and just helps the fossil fuels melts that even more, which is super detrimental to the ecosystem, as many animals rely on this surface ice as their habitat. Animals such as polar bears and penguins, which are two of the more famous ones. Polar bears are being affected very negatively, as they don't necessarily have as much energy to keep swimming across patches of ice as other animals do. So their habitat and domain to find prey has shrunken deeply, and their population has shrunken as a result of this. And we've seen population dips not just in polar bears, but in many other key organisms in this biome, which is again is very sad, as the Arctic is one of our should be one of our most protected places. But governments and companies aren't protecting it either, as governments are beginning to open or wanting to open military bases in the Arctic, which again would be detrimental, as the more developed this area becomes, the more unnatural these ecosystems become, and then these animals have to react to that. Corporations are taking advantage because they want to open either hotels or, in some cases, oil and natural gas pumps, which just contributes to the problem of air pollution, like I said. And then lastly, corporations are taking advantage as well by wanting to develop and commercialize the area, like it was said here, not urbanize, but they want to create tourist attractions such as fishing trips and tours, which would again be detrimental to these ecosystems, as people would definitely be leaving plastics around, along with the pollution that regular commercialization brings to ecosystems and to areas. And next, specifically talking about eutrophication. Eutrophication is the process of ponds becoming too nutrient rich with usually nitrogen and phosphorus. And there's a model out here that I'll explain to the right. This is when algae then absorbs these nitrates that are in the air, and they are produced from fossil fuels. And once these algae absorb them, underwater they begin to produce nitrogen, and the oxygen that usually is produced, the carbon dioxide that usually is produced, which has small amounts of oxygen in it, is being replaced with nitrogen and phosphorus, which is making fish and microorganisms suffocate underwater, and it's killing plants and entire marine ecosystems, which is very sad. They are also causing acid rain, which is when higher pH water is being sent, which is water of lower pH. Is happening, and then the water is becoming more acidified, and animals are having a harder job surviving, like I said. It's also due to runoff from septic and agricultural areas, as they contaminate the water and help eutrophie it, as the chemicals already become in there. And then our air quality suffers as well, as these plants are usually absorbing these nitrates, but when they absorb them at such a high level, they eventually all die, and these nitrates stay in the atmosphere. It also affects the groundwater, as they kill the plants that naturally filter out a lot of the impurities and a lot of the chemicals. And once these plants die, groundwater is usually compromised in that location. Luckily, there are groups fighting for this, specifically in Lake Tahoe, I found, as they are very famous for having clear and pure water. Eutrophication makes it more murky and less pure. And since they're so famous for this, a lot of conservation groups have focused on this area as kind of an example of how to battle eutrophication in a modern setting. This leads right into the fossil fuel impact, as there have been 8 million deaths caused yearly by fossil fuel based illnesses or factory deaths. This has led to $886.5 billion in medical bills, which is worth roughly the same as the entire country of South Africa. It affects lower income families much more, as there's an area in Louisiana, like I talked about before, but another area in Louisiana is known as Cancer Alley, and people are 50 times more likely to become ill due to air pollution effects due to the 150 neighboring plants. This number should wake everybody up, as again, low income communities do not reap the economical benefits of these plants, but they do have the natural downsides to these plants. There is hope, however, due to the Southern California cleanup, specifically in areas around Los Angeles, not Los Angeles directly, as in the last 26 years, they've cleaned up the most air pollution, more than any area in the United States. However, the Los Angeles smog problem is still one of the largest in the United States, as it causes the most asthma attacks, more than other than any city in the United States due to their smog. However, luckily, cities like Madison, right around here, have developed ways that we can combat mass transportation, such as electric bikes. When it's nice out, a lot of people would rather take these than buses because they're faster and much more affordable. And going off of that to the government intervention, we've been looking to reduce chemical output, and the United States has had the highest reduction since 2005. We've also cut 6 billion metric tons of pollution from trucks, and that will be cut officially by 2025. But as of right now, we are on pace with that number. And then we've developed two programs, or developed one program. The first being the Renewable Fuel Standard Program, and that helps develop biofuels such as cellulosic and ethanol. Cellulosic is made from plants and is one of the bigger ones. However, ethanol is more focused on because it is 91% as effective as other natural or fossil fuels, which is a very good number because that is something that we can go off of. However, ethanol is made from corn and can cause food shortages, which has been an issue in recent years. The last thing I want to talk about was water pollution. I talked about groundwater earlier, but once eutrophication happens and groundwater leaching occurs, then toxic water is brought into aquifers, and that aquifer is then considered undrinkable. There's been many lakes and ponds that have been unfit for fishing, swimming, and drinking, and that's a very large number that we should not have as a key part to our ecosystem. Ecosystems again suffer in oceans due to eutrophication and ocean garbage. As you can see to the right, I found not ocean garbage, but lake garbage in Madison and Lake Mendota. There's cans and lids there. These are being combated from our government by the Save Our Seas Act, which provides cleaning funding for cleanups in coastline states, along with forcing the UN to meet every year regarding this. And the Trash Reduction Act, which rewards companies for lowering their trash output. In conclusion, we need to increase societal awareness for these different types of pollution as our entire world relies on it, and we need to be more unified in cleaning it up because, like I said at the beginning, this is not just a national problem. This is a very deep local issue.